welcome back on Sport Vitamins for episode 41. This episode was recorded last week when I was in Barcelona for our first Euro Cup game. Unfortunately, we lost, but the season has started and it's a grind. It's definitely a grind, but one of the best things is that we get to travel a lot. We get to travel to a lot of different places. You get to meet so many different people, so many coaches, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's definitely something that I missed last season, playing just once a week. But as I was saying, today's episode is episode 41, and I had the great chance to be joined by Manuel Lacroix. Manuel currently is the head strength and conditioning coach for Asvel, which is a EuroLeague team, and he's also the head strength and conditioning coach for the France national team, which just won the silver medal at the European Championship. So it's a great honor to have him on. And without further ado, guys, here's the episode with Manuel Lacroix.
Manuel, good afternoon. Welcome on the show.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you very much for taking the time today. And usually we start asking our guests a little bit of about their background.
Okay. So first, thank you for the invitation. Thank you. I'm happy to be your guest for today. So first, I was 5 years in university, the university in Burgundy, in Dijon, more precisely, to work on a university program for of course, sports performance, so sports science, anatomy, physiology, and everything. I get 3 diploma during this time. So 1 master, 1 diploma from specific strength and conditioning, and 1 diploma for video analysis to complete the background. After I started to work very soon, 2001 was my first experience. It was with a short track, the sport for the winter sport, for the Olympic Games in Salt Lake City. So it was really my first experience in 2001. And after, it was a long journey between a lot of activity. So tennis, basket, soccer, handball, come back on the basket. And every time I'm really lucky because every time it was a high-level athlete and high-level team. So I don't want to precise really what I did every time, but this is all the sport I work on.
Okay, nice. And so you had experience in so many different sports. I'm always curious to know how a strength coach adjusts and adapt his work and his philosophy and his mentality also to completely new environments every time.
Yeah, the first is to work on maybe sometimes literature to see the games demand, because of course the games demand are really different between every activity. So this is the first part, is more theoretical. After, of course, with the time, it's more day by day to understand what is the mentality, habits in the work routine, in every sport. And for me, it's a chance because you can learn a lot when you see practice in other activity. You can work from the handball, the way they work around the shoulder, around sometimes the fighting spirit. On the tennis, you can work a lot during the controlling the load, because they repeat game a lot during the week when you have tournament, when you play Grand Slam, something like this. You play every day, so you have to organize. So it's quite similar with you can find maybe with EuroLeague, or you play a lot every 2 days. So the first thing is this. Of course, after for me there is something eagle is the strength is the same. So you have to maintain and work on the strengths. So the general strength is the same. So of course you have to adapt the load, because the load can't be the same. For example, the handball player is a hard worker in the lifting room. If you play with a soccer player, it's a little bit different. But you can do general exercise with soccer player, but you have to a little bit adapt. And you have to change when you go with energetic work, of course. And you have to change when you go with agility and speedness, because of course this quality are really different on the court. If you have big court, small court, and the way you change direction, the way you move on the court is very different. So you have to look and work really specifically on this.
And what kind of assessments do you run with your athletes? And what kind of assessments do you maybe change when you get to work with different sports?
It's the same. For me, the same. I love to use video and to do, of course, some classic jump like counter movement jump, squat jump, drop jump, to see how the player, the athlete, land, fly, disbalance, and everything. Of course, the performance, but it's quite the same for me for the activity. You know, for me, the test. If you did specific test with the activity, it's really difficult after to compare to have an idea of who is the athlete. That's why I try to have a general test, and after I can compare with all the activity. But of course, my vision is a little bit different. For example, if I did energetic test with a basketball player, I got the value. It's not the same effect on me if I did the same with a soccer player, because the soccer players need to have a bigger value than a basketball player. So of course you have to adapt after the vision you have on the test, but the tests are close to the same in the spirit.
That's very interesting. You said that you worked with short track athletes in preparation for the Olympics, or actually also during the Olympics?
For the preparation.
For the preparation, okay.
Yes.
I guess it's a very hard challenge because they have to basically work for 4 years, and the competition is very, very short. How do you manage to hold them accountable during these 4 years, and what kind of work you need to do with an athlete that is preparing something that is not happening immediately, but is happening in 4 years from now?
Okay, so in this situation, I just worked for 1 year before the Olympic Games, because the Olympic Games were in 2002, and I started to work with 2001. So I can't explain what they did during the 4 years, but it was very interesting because, of course, it's a sport where you don't have money, so you don't have the same quality or the practice organization. So they were students for the most part, so they work on a university. We practice at maybe 7 o'clock before the first lesson. We practice between 12 and 2 o'clock afternoon, and we practice the night. So for me, it was really interesting to see how the motivation and what kind of load you can put on an athlete. Because, for example, they practice maybe 3 times a day. Now, if you do a double day with basketball player, maybe they can complain and say, "Oh, it's terrible." Okay, no, you can do more. We know that we can do more. So it was really interesting for this.
No, that's absolutely true. And how did you transition from? I guess you were working with soccer athletes to basketball. How did that happen?
You what do you mean? You mean in fact, or
yeah?
How
did that happen, and what kind of adjustment did you have to do?
It's just opportunity, to be honest. Me, I was a soccer player at the beginning, so I have diploma to practice, to train with a soccer player specifically. So at the beginning, when I started and I want to become a strength conditioning coach, I was sure I will work with soccer player. I was sure of this. But opportunity, I started with basketball player in 2003, I think, 2003. And after I come back with a soccer. So it was easy to come back on a soccer, of course, from the basketball. And after to come back on basketball from soccer, just remember what I did before. And of course, just what I said at the beginning, just look at the game, start to work on literature, what you can find, and to be logic. For me, you can find, if you know sport as a general, you can be smart and you can find a way in every sport. For me,
sure, I agree. And what were the biggest challenges that you faced when you you made your transition from soccer to basketball?
Of course, it's to be to gain the respect, because I'm not a basketball player, so I'm in staff, so elite staff. But if they spoke together about basketball, about system and everything, I'm not an expert of this. So I have to gain respect, to obtain respect with the time about my specialty, the load. Maybe have to look from with distance, you know what I mean? So I'm not focused when I was looking to the game. I'm not focused on the system, on the execution, everything. I don't care about this. I'm looking at the way he move, the way he make the effort, the problem he can have during the game with the intensity or specific one against one, something like this. So it's just a different vision. And because normally strength and conditioning coach are close to be as a basketball coach too, so they can have another look to the game. So it was maybe the most difficult thing at the beginning, but never a problem. No problem, never.
And actually, working with basketball athletes, is it different than working with a soccer player? I guess it is. And which are the main differences? And yeah, which are the main differences between basketball athletes and soccer athletes?
It's just about culture. In basketball, you have the culture or the individual workout, or you want to improve your body. So you go in a lifting room, you have a specific coach, and you develop something. Of course, you work with a team, but you have the logic and to work individually. The soccer player is not like this. The practice is more collective. You have 15 players that did exactly the same workout, the same core exercise. So it's a little bit different. So it's more difficult for me to put a soccer player in a weight room, for example. But it's more difficult for me to put a basketball player on a track than a soccer player, because soccer player run every day. So it's not a problem. They're not afraid about it. A basketball player, if you put on a track, he's afraid about it. He said, wow, it's difficult. So it's just about culture.
Sure. And as you said, most of the basketball athletes like to lift weights. So
exactly,
that's a big plus for us.
Yeah.
Okay, we just mentioned lifting weights. So I would like to know something about your coaching philosophy, and especially your coaching philosophy in a weight room.
Okay, weight room for me, it's a key. For me, strength is a key for everything. You can improve endurance. Of course, you can improve prevention. You can improve neuromuscular performance, so the jump, the speedness, and everything. So it's okay. But for me, you have to be really precise. So my philosophy is to be close to the person. I want to know exactly the person. If he is able, for example, to focusing on a workout in a weight room during 45 minutes or not, maybe it's only 30 minutes. You got some players that can focus on the program during 1 hour and 30 minutes. And I want to be precise, and I don't want to force a person. For example, a guy who don't have focusing a long time in a weight room, I don't want to put him during 1 hour in a weight room. It's not efficient. So really, I want to know the person, the habits, what he did before, to be really precise on the way work, and to adapt my program with his personality. Of course, when I say this, is not to do exactly what the player wants to do. Sometimes you have to force him and to put in a good way. But to do this, I don't want to force. I want to explain. I want to convince. I want to show why you have to work more, or maybe more often, or more longer, or a different way. That's the first philosophy. And the second one, of course, about exercises, the load. If a player came in my team without habits in a weight room, I don't want to start with heavy load and everything. I will start, of course, by easy workout, and I'm sure with easy workout at the beginning is the first step. You will work on the strengths, but maybe a different athlete will work with heavy load because he lived since maybe 10 years. He's an expert on this kind of workout. So I want to work differently. And of course, I want to adapt about age, about problem. If you have a player, maybe 30, 35 years old with a lot of problem behind him, I'm really focusing on activation, prevention, but not about performance. Because for me, the performance of this guy is only to be on the court. He's on the court, he's a good player. Okay, you gain, you get performance. But for example, you have a young guy, of course, you want to work more because you want to increase performance, change direction, jumping, repetition, and everything. So my philosophy is to be ready to have a big individualization of the work all the time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I like what you said about for example, veteran players. Like the key with them is to have them available for games, while when you have younger athletes, maybe you can also push a little bit more because they need to improve, and probably they're not going to be exposed to the same load on the court because they're not going to play much.
Yeah.
So you said that you want to know the person first.
Yes.
Is there some sort of like entry interview that you do at the beginning of the season? Are there some I don't know, questionnaires that you give to the athletes? Tell us something about this part of your coaching philosophy.
First, with my phone, I call all my colleagues, and I try to maybe for the last 3 years to have a call with a strength condition coach in Europe or States on everything to have information. That's the first step. So with this, I got an idea because sometimes you have colleagues really honest with the player with you, so you can have good information. After when the player came for the first time, we just do the test. So the test maybe sometimes confirm that we know. And after I did interview, but I don't want to do formal. I don't know if the word is great. Not in an office and everything is with some stress. It's more between maybe to practice close to the court or just have a walk together or have a coffee during in an airport or something like this. To have a really honest discussion and I want to open. So first I can say for the player, okay, let me know if you don't like to work on your body, let me know, be honest. I prefer this. And to start, by the way, so the first step, but don't lie to me, say, oh, I'm a hard worker like this, and after it will be difficult during the year. So it's a really interview, really honest, and after it's a good starting point for me. But nothing nothing in the office and too much classical. I prefer human record.
Okay. Are there any questions that you also ask about lifting, about working out? Like, for example, what kind of exercises do you like? What kind of exercise you don't like? What do you have to do to feel good and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. So normally, in average, players got maybe 3 routines. The routine for the preparation, and maybe 3 routines in a weight room. Not too much. So sometimes you got some players they love squat. Squat is a religion, so you can improve by squats. But some players don't like this, so maybe it can be difficult to put him on a squat, or you have to discuss or to see if it's interesting or not for the player. But of course, so every time I put on my paper what they like to do, what they used to do, and some practices during the preseason, I let the player do what he wants to do. He came in the weight room, we have a lifting session. I say, okay, today we spoke about your routine, about hips mobility and strength. Okay, show me what you did. Easy, hey, walk, and you see. And sometimes some player lied before they came in the weight room. I didn't do nothing because I didn't know what they have to do. So I say, okay, so we have to start by another point.
Yeah, that's a nice way. Sometimes I also use it. And for example, do you also tell them, I don't know, today is a lower body is a lower body day, so you have like 3 options, pick one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, sometimes I did this. Yeah, I love to give some freedom to the player, because for me, if the player feel comfortable in the process, in the session, he will be 100% in the process. If you force and the player doesn't understand why he didn't follow the program, for sure. So, for example, in this time, I got 2 players in my team. They call me morning or the day before, and we have an action by the call to decide what they will do for the next day.
Nice.
He asked me the question about what will be the day, how we organize the practice. What do you think about me? I let some freedom, and we build together what they will do tomorrow. And when the player come the day after, he is 100 in the process because he believes it's his own decision and it's perfect. But
If,
you are here, you control, you organize, you can put your drill, and it's easy after.
yeah, he designed the workout with you, so he has to buy in for sure.
It's the same for the coach when he want to put in a philosophy to his team. If the team doesn't believe in the project, the way they play, no way, it doesn't work.
And what's the minimum dose for you during the week? I mean, how many times do your athletes lift at least?
3-4 times a week.
3-4 times. Okay.
Yeah, 4 times a week. It's I put in this some lead sessions and 20-30 minutes, because for me it's lifting too. When you come maybe after practice to have a shot during 20 minutes on a workout, I put on this, but I try to do like this.
And yeah, you work you work for a team that plays in the EuroLeague now, and we all know that playing in the EuroLeague is a grind because you get to play also 3 times a week. Yeah. So can you please break down how you organize your week around the games?
Okay, so we work by normally you have the more you have is maybe 2 days before a game. So game 1, day 1, day 2, and after it's a game day. For the day 2 to 2 days before the game, the practice starts 1 hour before the team practice. So for example, we start normally at 11. Players came at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I design like a road between physio, individual basketball, and lifting room. So for example, some player maybe start with 40 minutes in a weight room and 20 minutes on the court. Your veteran maybe came and start with 20 minutes physio, 20 minutes in a weight room, 20 minutes individual coaching basketball. So we design this. So we have 1 hour individual workouts before the practice. We have the practice. Normally, I ask to the coach to have our bigger practice at this time. So we control this with GPS, the intensity. We want to have 2 days before the game the peak of the load. And after practice, we can add some small session for some player for upper body. I got some players they prefer to lift after practice. So that's 2 days before the game. The day before the game, it's not an obligation to come before, but of course, for some player, it's a recommendation, so they have to come for the prevention. And of course, we can lift after. We have the game day. After the game day, after the game, sometimes I love to force some player to go in a weight room to gain some time. So to do maybe if he didn't play a lot, I want to do a leg session. I prefer to do like this because the day after it's a recovery day, but it's a recovery day for the players that play a lot. For this kind of player, it will be small side game, small get 3 against 3, 4 against 4 to stay in a rhythm. So we call some young player from the academy, and we organize 3 against 3 or 4 against 4 to maintain the rhythm for this kind of player. So that's why I love to put the lifting session the day before and after the game. And for the other player, we start the recovery day is 30 minutes in a weight room, mandatory. And of course, I adapt. It can be the individual routine. It can be strength. It can be upper body. It can be only stretching and hips mobility. It can be bike. Depend on my feeling at this time.
Sure. You already touched on one of the topics that I wanted to discuss with you, which is game day lifts. Can you tell us something about this? What you think? What's your opinion, and how do you manage the post-game lifts with your athletes?
You have some players that they love to do this. For example, with the national team, Rudy Gobert loves to lift after the game. So it's easy. We lift after every game because it's a NBA. It's an NBA routine. So I think it's smart because you gain some time, and I think it's better for the recovery. Of course, if you play 30 minutes and you're not an expert on the weightlifting, it's not a good idea. But if you lift every day and you do some lifting after the game, I think it's great for you. It's great for you. And of course, what I said is I force some player when they don't play a lot. I hate when they lost time or they lost 1 day to do nothing. They stay on the bench. Of course, you have frustration and everything, but you put in a weight room and it's good for the player to feel okay. I didn't play, but I did something good today for me.
Okay. And, how do you assign the workouts after a game? For example, if you have a player that played a lot of minutes, do you still want him to do total body, or maybe you just want him to do partial workout? And how do you adjust also loads and sets and reps?
Yeah, really depend on the player. Really depend on the player. If it's a what we can say like a fit player, so strong player, okay, we can do some lower body and upper body, quick, 20, 25 minutes, no problem. If it's not a fit player, a guy, maybe a veteran and everything, I don't want to go in a weight room after. I prefer to say, okay, treatment and everything, or maybe some bike if you want, but I don't want to add some load. But every time it's a really short workout. And for example, just before the playoff, with 1 or 2 key players, I force them to work every time after the game before the playoff, to prepare the player.
Okay. Did you like it?
Yeah. They like it, and after the player perform, so they are happy and they say, okay, it was a good idea.
Yeah, I really like this topic. It's something that I use a lot with my athletes. But for example, the other day we had the first post-game lift of the season, and I was hoping so bad that we could win that game. First of all, because it's always nice to win, and second, because it's so much easier to go with the athletes in the weight room after a win.
Exactly.
So I was really, we gotta win this one. We ended up winning, so we also had a very good post-game lift.
Okay.
So you just mentioned Rudy Gobert. Okay, so let's move on and let's move to the next topic, which is your experience with the national team. First of all, congratulations on the silver medal. That's really a great accomplishment. Can you tell us something about the experience and how different the experience with the national team is from your everyday experience with Asvel?
But the most difficult things you don't have time. You have 4 weeks now with the program. You have 4 weeks to preseason, like a preseason 4 weeks, and after you have 1 week with international window for the World Cup qualification, and after you have Eurobasket. So you have to be ready at the last week to compete. So it's really short, and it's difficult because you got some players they stopped since 3 months with the NBA. So they just did, individual workouts. So of course you have a contact with the individual coach and everything, but when you do individual workout, you don't have the rhythm of the team when you play 5-5 and everything. So that's the first problem. You got some players they play final for EuroLeague and or the final in domestic league. So when they stop this, they just take holidays, of course, because they want to do nothing. So they came back maybe after 15 days or 2 weeks, they did nothing. So they're not in shape, complete not in shape. You have some players, they play really difficult workout with NBA team because they are a young player. So they came maybe sometime with some problem. So it's really difficult because you have to put everybody in the same way, but you have a big difference between every player of what they did before. And you have just 4 weeks to organize something. And of course, in the same time, your coach wants to have all the time team session because you have to put a system, tactical, philosophy. So, wow, it's really stressful because you don't have time, but you have a lot of things to do. So we had session before practice, after practice. We deal some player day by day. It's just adaptation. that's a big difference with the team, or you can organize, you have time, you can put your philosophy, what you want. Here, you don't have a lot of time, and you have to really to have a good adaptation and to know really what your player did before. It's really important because if you didn't know that your player did the strengths maybe 2-3 weeks before with an individual strength and conditioning coach, maybe you want to come back on the strengths, but you lose time. Okay, he did it, so you got the strengths, you can do different things. And after, of course, during the competition, it's a lot about organization to find a lifting room, to can put the program, because unfortunately, we don't have, for the moment, good organization. We don't have lifting room in every gym. So sometimes you have nothing to work. So you have to find a way to find a gym, maybe close to the hotel to work and everything, but you change your hotel after. So it's more organization.
Yeah, I really agree with you when you said that you need to adapt when you work with national teams. For example, it was kind of the same thing for me last year when I worked with the under 20 national team. I didn't really have time to implement a new system, so I had to come prepared and already knowing what the guys can do, what the guys can do, and what the guys were used to do in their clubs and stuff like that.
Exactly. It's difficult because you have to, for example, an NBA player, you are in contact with a franchise, but you are in contact with an individual strength conditioning coach, and sometimes you got maybe 3 or 4 individual strength conditioning coach, so you're in contact with 5 person for one guy. So it's complex to to avoid information, it's complex, but it's okay. All the time it was really good person all the time, so it was perfect.
For sure. And can you give us some tips on how to deal with superstars? Because of course you have superstars in your EuroLeague team, but when it comes to working with NBA players, we all know that they're at a different level. So how do
Yeah.
you to deal with them?
For me, it's not a problem to be a superstar because, for example, I worked with Tony Parker when he was injured. He is a superstar, but it's easy to work with superstar because if he is superstar, it's because he work a lot around his body. So, of course, you have to deal with environment. Okay, sometimes you have appointment, something like this. Media, everything. So you have environment, but after nobody, the guy is very professional. That's what you have to deal more personality. More than superstar, for me, it's more with personality. You have some special personality, or it's difficult to have, good talk. So sometimes you have to deal with this and to have a good feeling of the when you have to talk with this guy, when you can be an angry coach or you have to be a nice coach to give the good message. So it's not about superstar for me, it's more about personality.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, if they become superstars, it's because they worked a lot.
For me, I hope so, because I want to believe in this. So and for example, for the moment, okay, every people with success I met, they are great worker. So
Yeah, and it makes also your job easier, I guess, because as you said before, you had Rudy Gobert going to the weight room after games. So I think also the other players wanted to follow his habits, probably,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Can be a leader of the post game, for example, and to bring some other player with him. Of course.
No, that's great. That's great for sure. All right, Manuel. So usually we finish off with 3 rapid fire questions, okay?
Okay.
So first of all, what's the best city that you visited so far?
Valencia.
Valencia. Okay, nice. What's your favorite exercise in the weight room?
Oh, lunges.
Lunges. Nice.
Yeah.
I like them too. And what's your favorite book on strength and conditioning?
It's difficult. It's difficult. Okay, for me it will be maybe a book from Gilles Cometti because I worked with this guy a long time ago. And it's really important for me. So maybe it can be a book I don't, maybe Les Méthodes de Musculation is a French name of his book from Gilles Cometier. Yeah.
Okay, great. Manuel, if some of our listeners would like to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Instagram is maybe the most easier contact, I think.
Okay, great. And again, thank you very much for taking the time today, spending some time with us. It was a very interesting conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it too.
Thank you. Good luck for the game tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You guys enjoyed this episode, another great one, of course. And if you like, please share the episode and subscribe to the channel. And remember that you can find Sport Vitamins on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, guys, I'm out.